From the very first whistle, the energy inside the arena was electric. The fans rising to their feet as Indiana exploded out of the gates, seizing their biggest lead of the night in a furious wave of pressure and precision, the kind of energy that builds not just a lead but a statement. Off a turnover, they advanced quickly, 3-on-1. Lexie Hull gliding into the lane, laying it softly off the glass as if she owned the hardwood. And in that moment, it wasn't just about Aaliyah Boston. It was about an entire Fever unit who were moving like a single force of will. The cut was clean, the transition sharp, and when Jackson got caught too deep underneath, Boston made him pay with suffocating defense that reminded everyone why she's the anchor of this team. Hull dropped a bounce pass like poetry. McDonald streaked down the lane with unrelenting speed, absorbed the contact, and still scored with an and one that brought the crowd to a fever pitch. A symphony of sneakers, whistles, and rising roars. Indiana was no longer just playing. They were dictating. Boston, who had already pulled down her 9th rebound with ease, was everywhere. On the glass, in the paint, and in the hearts of every defender foolish enough to challenge her. One smooth spin and a feed inside to Natasha Howard, and the layup extended the lead again. In transition, Hull's signature spin move caught Natasha's cut in perfect sync, stretching the margin to 20, and by then the Fever weren't just up, they were commanding. It was remarkable how everything was flowing, as if years of struggle and grind were funneling into this one dazzling display. Clark tried to turn the corner, slipped a behind-the-back pass to Howard with so much flair that the crowd gasped, and the Fever's rhythm only intensified. Hull pulled up confidently in transition, drilling the jumper with a stroke that made defenders hesitate. The early quarter struggles of the starters had evaporated into a blur of crisp passes and relentless energy. Hull spun and dished again, this time to Timpson, who powered through contact and finished with authority, showing that Indiana's bench wasn't just holding the line, they were extending it. Hull's playmaking was unlocking everything. In the corner, she curled off a screen and buried a 3 without blinking, her rhythm as smooth as silk. Mitchell, meanwhile, was putting on a clinic of her own, pouring in 15 points in the quarter, hitting her 6th 3 of the game, and as the buzzer neared, Hull caught and fired over a fully outstretched arm, nothing but net right at the horn. Chicago had clawed the deficit down to 2, but Indiana slammed the door shut with their defense. Boston defending the perimeter with an intensity you don't often see from a post. And then came the steal, 3 consecutive turnovers. Hull picking pockets like a seasoned thief. McDonald finishing the break as the crowd rose again. Their pressure up the line was textbook, taking away the 3-point shot entirely and punishing every mistake. In the paint, Jones went down, and Hull wasted no time, scooping up the ball and laying it in with the calm of a veteran and the ferocity of a competitor who knows the stakes. Indiana was a team on a mission, and Hull was its heartbeat. She crowded the ball handler, forced the turnover, and sprinted back without missing a beat. And while Chicago scrambled to find a rhythm, Indiana doubled down. Their young star, still just 19, had been through weight rooms, film sessions, long workouts. This was the payoff. Williams tried to get a shot off at the horn. It rolled out, and Hull responded with a clean, open 3 that dropped like a sigh of inevitability. She needed that one, and you could feel the shift. Her stroke was alive. She was catching fire. Chicago tried to settle down in the half court, but their possessions unraveled. Nurse lost the ball. Mitchell snatched it, sprinted down court, and in a 2-on-1 foot race, fed Cunningham for an easy 2. With key players like Coulson out for the season, Indiana saw no weakness. They saw opportunity. Hull cut baseline, took the contact, hit the bucket, and screamed toward the rafters as the whistle blew. Her confidence was radiating. Baseline execution crisp, curl cuts punishing. She was everywhere. It didn't matter who was on the floor. This was a Fever team that was starting to feel inevitable. And when Hull knocked down another 3 with her smooth, high release, it wasn't just a shot. It was a message. The crowd roared louder. The bench rose higher. The scoreboard tilted further. Howard fought on the boards, Boston fed her in the paint, and the rhythm between them was unstoppable. Hull, with that signature quick trigger jumper, dropped another dagger from deep. Indiana's offense was humming, their defense suffocating. Boston cut backdoor to Hull, who finished through contact and turned to the crowd with clenched fists. This was the game she'd been building toward all season. When the lineup rotated, she refused to cool off. She kept her dribble alive like a seasoned floor general, reading every defender, punishing every late rotation. Turner's absence forced others to step up, and Hull answered with another triple, each swish a small eruption in the stands. Every time she let the ball fly, you believed it was going in. Her aggression was relentless. By halftime, she'd taken 8 shots, hit 6 of them, and made every possession count. In the second half, Boston found her in the corner. Hull launched. It rimmed out. But Dantas grabbed the offensive rebound, kicked it back out, and Hull, ever the hustler, followed the play, slipping into the paint for a crafty finish. Under 7 minutes left, she attacked the baseline, stopped on a dime, and flipped it over her head. An impossible shot that somehow dropped. Hamby thought she had her pinned, but Hull twisted her way out like smoke. The Mercury tried to respond, but Indiana's pressure turned every possession into a brawl. Hull, hawked by Sabi, nailed another tough jumper. She had turned the game into her own canvas, painting with steals, spins, jumpers, and grit. Even off the bench in key rotations, she made an impact in minutes that mattered most. When Turner checked in, Indiana got even more dangerous. Hull jumped a passing lane, stole it clean, and moments later was wide open, sinking another triple. Indiana was running both ends of the floor like a drill. 5 players in double figures, the scoreboard a testament to the machine they had built. They refused to go away. Hull, with 14 points in 14 minutes, turned the tide. Turner got inside, kicked it out, and Hull buried another. Every shot was an exclamation point. On the other end, she made plays defensively too, cutting off drives, stripping the ball, forcing panic. Cunningham stole and fed Sims coast to coast, cutting the deficit briefly, but Mitchell responded immediately, kicking to Hull for yet another 3. Mitchell matched her career high with 38 points, orchestrating the game like a maestro, and Hull was the perfect co-conspirator. Feeding inside to Howard to start the 4th, Indiana set the tone early. Hull dialed up another deep ball. Boston found her again, Hull slashing through traffic, drawing fouls, finishing tough layups. Indiana had weathered lineup disruption and came out sharper for it. Her dribble control kept defenders guessing. She earned more playing time with every possession. When Turner subbed in for Bivy, Hull made it count, catching and launching another triple, another roar. Every shot felt like a story written mid-air. Aggressive from the first half to the closing minutes, Hull attacked relentlessly, shooting at a blistering clip. Boston kicked it out. Hull let it fly. It skipped out, but Indiana wasn't done. Offensive rebound, reset, Hull slashed, scored. Baseline, stop, pivot, and flip. It was a masterclass in craft. The Mercury ran off an 8-point burst, but Hull answered with a tough stick. Creativity oozed from her movements. Another steal, another bucket, her timing immaculate. She wasn't just reacting. She was reading plays 2 steps ahead. Her teammates fed off it. The crowd surged with it. Sims wove through traffic, Hull dished to Boston for an easy finish. The Fever were running a clinic in team basketball. Boston's dominance inside drew doubles, leaving Hull wide open on the perimeter, money. Boston posted up Lloyd, kicked out, and Hull drilled yet another 3. The chemistry between them had reached a telepathic level. Evans tried to counter for Chicago, whipped a pass inside, but Hull denied it cold, saving the possession. The kind of play that wins games but never shows up on highlight reels the way it should. Indiana's offensive firepower wasn't overwhelming on paper, but their execution was suffocating in real time. Boston secured another rebound, found Sims streaking ahead, who scored. Boston then gave it up to Mitchell. Wilson switched on her. Young tried to recover, but Hull was already spotting up. Splash. She had found a zone few players ever reach, where the game slows down and everything feels connected. Her offense was brilliant, but her defense, her instincts, her anticipation made it elite. She knocked balls loose, sprinted into space, punished the opponent for every misstep. Even Holly on the sideline noted how balanced Mitchell had become this season, attacking off 2 feet, controlling tempo, and Hull was the perfect mirror. Balanced, poised, deadly. Sims scored in transition, the Fever roared louder. A Wilson rebound got poked loose by Hull again, leading to another jumper. She was in everything. Sims weaved, Hull dished again, Boston laid it in. 2-point game. A comeback? A collapse? No, a statement. Indiana wasn't letting go of this one. Their defense tightened like a vice. Every possession Chicago tried to build fell apart at Hull's fingertips. The Fever's relentless energy, built on defense, transition, and pure he. The energy inside the arena was unmistakable that night. A collision of speed, willpower, and history being written in real time as the rhythm of the game pulsed through every corner of the hardwood. Lexie Hull, fierce, focused, and completely locked in, moved across the floor with a kind of precision that didn't just come from training. It came from living and breathing the game. She had said earlier, with a quiet kind of conviction, "All Atlanta reminds me of home. I'm back in the South, and this was the best dish of my life." And though that quote floated lightly on the surface, beneath it burned the fire of a competitor who wasn't just here to participate, she was here to command. The Fever had been looking for someone to ignite them, and Lexie, with her sharp cuts, explosive drives, and fearless jumpers, became that spark. Early in the game, her teammates looked for opportunities to get her the ball, but she didn't hesitate to create for herself either. "Shoot that thing when you're open," they'd told her, and she did exactly that. She attacked downhill, split defenders with pure momentum, and the whistle shrieked as she took contact. And won. Her footwork had been impeccable, a product of endless hours in the gym, working not just on skill but on understanding angles, timing, and rhythm. When Lexie got past Clark inside and ran straight into traffic, flipping the ball up with a circus-like touch, the arena gasped as it fell through the net. That was the moment everyone realized. She wasn't just in the game. She was taking it over. She moved like a player who understood geometry on a basketball floor. Every 45-degree cut a dagger, every baseline run an opening. Her shape, her pace, and her vision were electric. As Indiana searched for offense in critical stretches, she went right at defenders like Tahina Pow Pow, refusing to be denied. That bucket, that crucial bucket, came when the team needed it most, and it shifted the momentum back into their favor. Jones left it behind the back, and suddenly it was a 2-on-2 break, a flash of speed, a blur of jerseys streaking down the court. Cloud spun like a dancer in a storm, and Lexie elevated almost effortlessly to finish the play. And then came the kind of moment that defines seasons. Clark, ever the cerebral floor general, found a hole in the defense and fed it beautifully. But it was Hull again, sprinting like a phantom along the baseline, catching and rising for another triple. Bonner picked a pocket on defense, and before the Mystics could reset, Hull had drained another from deep. Her rhythm was hypnotic, running the baseline, stealing the ball, splashing the triple. A loop of relentless precision. Washington, though young, had veterans who prided themselves on grinding opponents down, on forcing turnovers, on making every possession feel like war, but Hull colored outside those lines. She broke patterns, she shattered defensive schemes, and she made defenders question their next steps before they even took them. Jade Melvin, known for her sturdy perimeter defense, stayed skinny, slid her feet, and fought to cut off angles, but Hull's half-step was everything. It wasn't that she was faster, it was that she was smarter. One shift of her weight, one sliver of daylight, and she was gone. Boston, battling through foul trouble, read the play beautifully on the other end. A backdoor pass found Hull cutting, but the turnover nearly killed the play. Still, Boston scooped it up, pushing the ball with a guard's handle, slicing through defenders with a deliberate rhythm, and dropped a dime onto Hull in transition. It was artistry in motion, the kind of sequence coaches replay on film to teach spacing, patience, and timing. Hull leaned in, bouncing off the contact, soft touch. Bonner's one-step bounce pass to Dantis opened the floor, and the Fever attacked the seams. Colson blew past Melbourne like a gust of wind, Mitchell dished, the ball whipped along the baseline, and Lexie Hull, almost instinctively, curled for a reverse finish that left defenders frozen. She shook off Satu Sabali's defense, pulled up mid-range, and drilled another two. Her pivot was clean, surgical, the product of hours spent perfecting balance in the dark gyms of the off-season. Boston, patient at the elbow, kicked out to the corner as Hull drew defenders and forced rotations, creating opportunities not just for herself, but for the entire Fever offense. The Washington Mystics tried to trap, to rotate, to collapse, but Lexie's passing lanes were quick, her decisions quicker. Caitlin Clark, sitting second in the league in assists, orchestrated the offense like a symphony, knowing exactly when Hull needed that corner three, that quick flash to the rim, that angle that most players never see until it's too late. Howard answered on the other end for Vegas, back-to-back buckets, silencing the Fever crowd momentarily, but Hull kept coming. The Fever's ball movement had become contagious. McDonald's defensive pressure couldn't contain it. Dantis, without hesitation, fired a click pass to the corner where Lexie Hull waited like a sniper. She caught, set, and released in one fluid motion. Net. Her timing wasn't learned, it was earned. Boston, working the baseline, kicked out again. Dantis connected from deep. The Fever had found their rhythm, and Lexie Hull was the metronome. When Billings's shot rimmed out off a dish from late, Clark, always surveying, reset. Hull flashed weak side. Her foot barely grazed the three-point line as she gathered and lifted another deep make. The Fever bench exploded. Her teammates roared. The crowd's energy turned electric. It wasn't just about the points, it was the way she made every possession feel inevitable. But defenses adjust. Washington began hedging harder, throwing doubles, forcing her off her spots. Still, Hull slithered through like water through cracks in concrete. She curled off Aaliyah Boston's screen, took away Sykes's left drive on defense, and forced the turnover, showing not only was she dominating offensively, she was dictating the flow on both ends. Boston, despite sitting with 3 fouls, kept feeding Lexie, trusting her with possession after possession. Hull wasn't just a shooter anymore. She was the soul of this Fever run. McDonald flipped it over the top. Ball movement snapped like a whip, and once again, Lexie Hull in the corner punished the defense. Every touch she got felt like a countdown to a bucket. Dantas's extra pass was surgical, her awareness elite, and Hull rewarded it with precision shooting. The Mystics scrambled, Jade Melvin clawed through screens, Howard banged in the paint, but Lexie was already one step ahead. The Fever were down, then tied, then surging, and Hull was at the center of it all, calm, relentless, and ruthless. Howard responded with Vegas-style efficiency, but Mitchell, who had been silent earlier, began to feed off Lexie's energy. Her fourth quarter was a masterclass in control. When she went behind the back, when she split the defense, when the weak side failed to rotate, it wasn't just a bucket, it was a statement. The Fever weren't going to let this one slip away. Lexie Hull, the quiet storm, became the headline. Her cuts carved up defenses like blades. Her jumpers burned nets. Her defense suffocated opponents. She didn't just play in this game, she bent it around her will. Every bucket in that stretch carried a story. The baseline reverse that froze Crow, the contact finish through Howard, the quick release over Melvin's outstretched hand, the no-look pass from Boston that found her in stride, and perhaps most impressively, the composure. Never rushed, never rattled. Indiana's offense flowed through her gravity. Even when she didn't touch the ball, defenders shaded toward her, opening gaps for her teammates. Clark's assists rose, Boston's paint touches increased, Mitchell's lanes opened up. It was cause and effect, Lexie Hull being the cause. That's what elite impact looks like, not just scoring, but bending the entire geometry of the game in your favor. As the clock bled toward its final minutes, every possession turned into a war zone. Washington's veterans pressed higher, faster, harder, desperate to claw back control. But the Fever had something they hadn't had in seasons past: a rhythm, an anchor, a finisher. Lexie Hull had become the embodiment of all of it. She kept slashing, shooting, rotating, defending. She found Boston under the rim on a slip pass. She floated into the corner for a step-back 3 that felt like the dagger. And when the Mystics forced a turnover late, she was the first one sprinting back on defense, locking down the fast break, making the kind of hustle plays that win games in the margins. The Fever weren't just surviving, they were dictating. And when the buzzer finally sounded, the stats would show points, assists, and steals. But the story of the night belonged to Lexie Hull. This was the night where the Fever dream became reality. It was the night when an unrelenting rhythm met unstoppable confidence. It was the night when every cut, every jumper, every pass said the same thing: the